Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Excuse Me, Doctor. I am so pleased to be here with you tonight, my Be Health Empowered family. You know, as me as Dr. Mel. My full name is Dr. Melissa Clark, but please call me Dr. Mel. I'm so happy to be here with you tonight, doing what we do every week, which is bringing you the information that you need, the health information specifically, that you need to make wise health decisions, not just for yourself, but for your family and for your community. So if you're a newbie joining us for the first time ever, welcome. And I would love if you could just go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you're listening to us on YouTube, and that like button if you are tuning in on Facebook. We really, really appreciate you for it. And of course, you, my old heads, that's probably not the right word, but you know, my established Be Health Empowered family, you know that we create an amazing week for ourselves with all the fantastic topics that we cover. But I cannot do that without my two ride or dies, Mr. Wayne Bruce and Miss Lila Mays.
Where we
Hey,
riding to?
doing?
Where we riding to, Dr. Mel? Where are we riding to? I'm down. I
We
am
are
not down.
riding.
we
Not so
are
much for the
riding
dying,
into
though.
the land of being health empowered. That's
Right,
where we're
because
riding.
I'm not too down for the dying, though. I'm down for the ride.
Okay, well,
not
that's
for the
all we're gonna
dying.
do.
Right.
We're going to
And look,
ride today.
this is gonna be interesting because I gotta hit the record button, so it's gonna look a little weird right now, but it just cleared up. They don't even know.
Okay.
They don't know.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad we're capturing all of this wonderfulness. So what is up on our show today? What do we have in store, y'all?
Child, spring is springing. It has sprung.
Yes, it has.
across the land.
I'm happy. Longer days, all that good stuff.
I mean, that part, but the sneezing and the coughing and the pollen and all the things
Yeah,
getting
well,
on
there's
my
that.
nerve.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about that a little bit, right? Allergy season
Yep.
is
First,
Yeah.
let me say this though, Lai. You know, because
You-
I'm Mr. Technical on this show. I'm Mr. Technical and some
All right.
technical things going on. And I'm just gonna need you to push up a little bit closer to that microphone.
literally right here.
Really? Oh man. We got some
Okay.
technical difficulties.
Well, I can hear her, so I'm assuming everybody in audience land and our
Can
Be
y'all
Health
hear Lila?
Empowered family can
Give me-
hear.
give
Put
me
it
a
in the
big
chat
shout.
if you can
Put it
hear.
in the chat. In the chat. Boy.
And while
Those allergies.
right. Exactly.
Put it in
Exactly.
the chat.
In the chat. So we're gonna cover all that, Lila. We're gonna cover what leads to allergies, allergic reactions, asthma, why some people get all that stuff and other people's don't, because we have an incredible expert joining us later in the show, Dr. Elena Reece, and we're
Yes.
going to discuss everything that you need to know about asthma and allergies and allergic asthma. So get ready, get your pencils and papers out, share, all of that. Send it to people who you need to know, who you know need to hear this information.
Anybody you know that sound like Biggie Smalls at this time of the year, like send it to them. If they're wheezing when they're speaking, send it to them.
The remarks of our producer and co-host don't always reflect our position on excuse me, doctor. Can we get that as like some disclaimer language across the screen?
I get no respect. I look up to you. Literally, I'm looking up to you right now. I get no respect.
Well,
that's all right.
On that note, let's we got some weekly recap things that we need to share with folks, right?
Let's go to the weekly recap. Here. Right over there.
All right.
Around the corner. So look, let me say, can I start off the weekly recap?
Sure.
Sure.
Of course.
So you know, yesterday was my departed mom's birthday. So I was in some kind of way, right? You know how we all get around that time. You know it's coming. You don't want to do it's either taxes. I know at this time it's either taxes or my mama's birthday, right? One of them's gonna get me depressed. But but I have people I can reach out to. I have a community. So I never feel sad about anything. I never feel sad about being alone, but sometimes I get sad. But there's an epidemic of loneliness in the US now. And it's something we really need to address because it's we talk about the pandemic, but we don't talk about the things that cause it. Dr. Mel?
Right. Well, even before the pandemic, there was a problem with loneliness. And the reason that we're talking about it, addressing it in the context of a health show, is there was a report from the Surgeon General that came out not too long ago that said loneliness and lacking social connection is the same as smoking a half a pack of cigarettes a day in terms of the negative impact that it can have on your health, because it increases rates of heart attack, stroke, and dementia, just like smoking does, right?
Wow.
And
that's incredible.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, social media and the internet have definitely had an impact on people's perceived loneliness for sure, right, Dr. Mel? I mean, I think
right, because we're interacting in different ways and
Mhm.
our actual in-person connections are going down, and
Yeah.
we're more disconnected as society because we're moving to, more, we're changing jobs more, all those things where there used to be more social cohesion through neighborhoods or through work have changed, the dynamics around them. And we're seeing even across age groups, people are spending less time with each other in person than they did 20 years ago, say. 15 to 14-year-olds have 70% less social interaction with their friends.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's like amazing. So there was this report that I mentioned. They had 6 policy recommendations, but the one that I really want to focus on is creating a culture of connection. That was one of the policy recommendations from the US Surgeon General, and that's really an individual call out. What can each of us do to change the way that we function each day and strengthen our connection to others? I don't know if y'all have any ideas, but
I guess
I would love if folks.
volunteering, you can volunteer, be a part, you can plan hookups with your friends or family reunions, like
family
get back.
reunion is a big deal. That's a big one because that was one that always sort of happened for sure in our Black communities, right?
Right.
That was something to look forward to every year, and that we didn't even consider the health benefits of connecting with our families that we don't see on a regular basis.
Exactly.
And take it from one who is currently planning their family reunion.
It's a whole lot of connectionness.
It's a whole lot of connections. But every time I talk to my cousins and my family about it, I'm excited. I feel more and more connections, and I'm becoming close to people that I did not know 2 years ago, a year ago.
Right.
And we
exactly.
talk all the time now because we know the connection.
Right. And then joining groups, whether it's your religious organization, your civic organization, whatever. So put in the chat any ideas that y'all have about creating that culture of connection for you and your family and your inner circle. Checking on a neighbor, whatever it is.
Yeah, I was just going to say
it's more
that.
important than we think. Yep. It's much more important for our health than we think.
My watch is trying to talk to me. Sorry. All right, moving on. Oh, were you gonna say something, Wayne? I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna talk. You know me. I got bags under my eyes because I'm not sleeping late.
Okay, you go on to number 2.
Which leads us to
melatonin. Is it a good sleep aid? Because I don't get sleep a lot recently.
That's not good. Well, it's a popular sleep aid. It has a reputation of being safe since it's a naturally occurring substance made by our bodies. Um, and it is relatively safe because our brain releases it when it's getting dark to tell our bodies to shut it down for the night. But as we age, our amounts of melatonin actually go down. And so that's why as we get older, it might be more difficult to fall asleep. So it's three things I want us to keep in mind about melatonin as to whether it's a good sleep aid. The first of all, it's a supplement. It's labeled as a supplement. So that means it's not regulated by the FDA. So it's impossible to know whether what's in the bottle actually matches what it claims it is on the label in terms of amount. So just keep that in mind. The second thing is melatonin is really more of a timing substance than what you think of as a sleep aid that actually makes you sleepy, like if you were to take a Xanax or a Valium, right? What it's
Mhm.
really doing is saying to your internal body clock, hey, it is time to get sleepy,
Oh,
right?
okay. Right. Okay, that makes sense. I've never heard it broken down like that. It's time to get sleepy.
It is
Okay.
time to get sleepy, right?
It's not
So
necessarily go to sleep, take this and go to sleep, but it's making your body understand, hey, you're past your bedtime.
right,
It's
exactly.
time
So
to go to sleep.
becomes just as important now if you're relying on melatonin is that the environment that you're in when it is time to go to sleep and that melatonin tells you it's time to go to sleep. If you're out at the club, then it's
Right.
not going to work, right? So
Right.
you have to create the environment in your home or in your, wherever you are where you want to go to sleep to make it welcoming for sleep. So a cool, dim to dark room, um, no electronics, no cell phone, no TV. Don't get into arguments with your spouse or your kids or your roommates when you're trying to wind down. Make sure you put on relaxing music, white noise, take a warm bath, whatever works to relax you. That's the point. Do what's relaxing so that the melatonin can really work to do what it's supposed to do. And lastly, you want to avoid alcohol, heavy meals, and caffeine several hours before bedtime. So
And
that's how it works.
we just posted something by, I see it just popped up on my side, by Yvonne in the chat. She said sleep hygiene is
Right.
important.
That's
Come
what
on,
I'm talking
Yvonne.
about.
Come on,
Sleep
Yvonne.
hygiene.
Sleep
So
hygiene.
so
Hygienic.
yeah, and then the last thing I want to mention about melatonin is with kids. It has not been FDA approved with kids, although in some subsets of kids, like children with autism, it has shown good results. But before you start any supplement with kids, especially, or for yourself, you want to check with your doctor to make sure that it's the right one for you.
Lila.
So
You might want to repeat that because I know lots of people that are handing the
dosing their
melatonin
dosing
out
their
to the
kids up.
kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not approved for use in children and can cause side effects in some children. So very
Okay.
important to
Right.
discuss that with your pediatrician
So
before doing that.
Dr. Mel, do you know what they call melatonin in the 70s for children?
No, sir, I don't. Help me
They
out.
called it Manischewitz. Why?
Look, I resemble that remark because my dad did let me taste Manischewitz when I was 7. So I'm not even going to sit here and
And
lie.
it would put a kid to
And it
sleep.
was right. And I enjoyed it too much, probably,
Manischewitz.
because it was more
Cool.
sugar than anything else.
It was sugar. It was
Right.
sugar, but it
And
would get you, ooh.
we do not recommend that.
We don't recommend that
Excuse me,
either.
doctor.
I'm just
Thank
talking
you.
about
Do
the
not do
70s.
that. Yes.
Don't.
All
Okay.
right.
All right. Go ahead.
Hold up.
Get us back on track.
Hold up.
Okay.
Are you eating too fast? Are you a fast eater? That's our final recap of the week. Why would that be an issue if I eat my food so fast, Dr. Mill?
Yeah, because this is the deal. It takes the stomach 20 minutes to tell the brain, hey, I'm full, no more. So if you're eating too quickly, you might overeat and take in too many calories, which leads to weight gain and increase your risk of type 2 diabetes. That's the bottom line.
Okay. Um, So what's the
that's why
ideal
they.
pace for us
What's
to
that?
eat? I'm sorry. What's the ideal pace for us to? How long should we chew? And then what's the ideal pace for us to eat?
Okay, so you want to take, they say, up to 2 minutes to chew your food, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, so you really want to do that because it's more than just the weight gain and even the diabetes. Food stays in the stomach longer, so there's more exposure to the gastric acids, which could lead to heartburn, stomach inflammation, which we know is gastritis, and maybe even ulcers. So those are also things to be concerned about. The higher fiber foods might take you longer to eat. So eat foods with more fiber, apples, salads, carrots versus soft foods that you can just wolf down. And eat slower. Ideally, you want to slow your roll so you're taking 20 to 30 minutes to get through each meal, regardless of how long you chew. But also make sure chewing is a big part of that, how long you chew and keep the food in your mouth before swallowing.
Okay. Not
All
sure that
right.
I've in 2 minutes to chew anything but gum, but
It's a goal. It's a,
it's
it's
a
a, it's
goal.
a right. It's
It's
a
a
goal.
goal. Okay.
All right. So that's our weekly recap, y'all.
But we got something else.
Yeah. What do we have? What y'all think?
I just love that.
Lila cracks up every time.
Every single time. I love it.
So what y'all think for today?
This week, we asked the people what they think about health challenges, wellness challenges. So, like group challenges with your family or friends, where you take a week and you're challenging yourself to do workouts every day or eat healthier, or even, there are some organizations, some employers who do wellness challenges with staff members. So that is the question of the week. We have video, Mr. Bruce.
Let's go to the video.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Lila with Excuse Me Doctors, What Y'all Think? And today I'm asking folks if they believe wellness challenges are beneficial. What do you think?
Well, I believe they're beneficial, especially it depends on the people that's motivating you and working out with you and pushing you.
Okay, so motivational, that's a good word. So you think they're motivating?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're working out with the right people. Now, they can be intimidating, like going to a gym. I can understand that's a lot intimidating to a lot of people. That's why some people will start and then they'll quit. So when you're working behind the scenes, even if you got your family or friends, it's a lot easier, I believe.
Awesome. Thank you.
So
All
there
right.
you heard it. If you
So
can hear
nobody said anything about peer pressure at work or feeling like they're being bullied to participate, nothing like that.
Yes, but they did not want to be on camera. So I'm glad you brought that up, Dr. Mel, because yes, there were some very strong opinions the other way. Like it feels bullyish and it is intimidating. But we went with the positive. Yeah.
Well, I think the good thing is, if it gets people up and moving, we know that sitting is the new smoking. So we got to get up and move. So if the wellness challenge helps us to do even incrementally a little bit more than what we did before, I think it's a good thing. So
they work for me. I'm so competitive. Like you're not going
it.
out.
You're not going out. You're not going to outstep me today. I had 100,000 steps on my.
No, I'm serious. I'm serious. So they really do work for me.
Well, thank you, Lila. Thank y'all. We're going to see you back in a little bit because we are going to get into our show for tonight. It's allergy season. We're here to talk about what leads to allergies, allergic reactions, asthma. Why do some people get this stuff and others don't? And what can you do in terms of diagnosis and treatment and prevention? We have an incredible guest, Dr. Elena Reece, who's a board-certified allergist and immunologist and associate professor at Howard University, and she practices in Washington, D.C. Dr. Reece, thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you.
Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely. So I wanted to first find out and kind of set the stage. What is allergy, the field of allergy and immunology, and how did you decide to go into it?
Well, I have to admit that I was offered other fellowships, but I really made it more based on the personalities of the people I was working with. And I think that people do make that decision based on the people they're dealing with.
Okay. And well, what is allergy and immunology? Help us out with that.
Okay. The usual immune responses are non-allergic. So if you make an immune response to a respiratory infection, that's a good thing. If you make an immune response to a vaccine, that's a good thing. Well, allergies are the ones that you really don't want to make an immune response. So that you don't want to be allergic to all of the things in your environment.
Okay. And and so basically your immune system is the one that's in charge of reacting to things that it perceives that are foreign, right? And
Right,
so you're saying if it's reacting to too many things in the environment that seem foreign, that's not a good thing.
right. So that
Okay.
you're better off if you're more tolerant of those things in your environment.
Got it. So what is an allergic reaction? And explain how that does relate to your immune system.
Okay, so there are two types of allergic reactions. There's the immediate allergic reaction, which means you develop little hives. So if you've
Mhm.
ever prick skin test, they prick your skin and put little drops on your skin and look to see if you have a little hive that develops there. So that's related to the immunoglobulin E, and that's
Mhm.
the allergic response. But there have been times when you don't really react to the immediate prick, but a couple of hours later, there's a reaction. And that's called the delayed allergic response. And that's related to the different cells in your body. So one is antibody related and one is more cellular related.
Right. So for those longtime listeners of the show, we sort of talked about antibodies as being the policeman in your body. Your cells make antibodies against um, what we call an antigen, something from the outside that it perceives as, hey, it's not supposed to be there. And it makes those antibodies. So if the antibodies are hanging around, right? Then it can immediately respond versus if your cells have to create antibodies, then that's the delayed response, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Close enough. All right.
Okay.
So you mentioned there are different types of allergic reactions. Um, where do seasonal allergies fall into that? Sort of like what everybody's experiencing now with the pollens and the grass pollen, the tree pollen, that kind of stuff.
It is largely immunoglobulin E related, but it also has a cell mediated component. So that
Okay.
I tell people, whenever I get to my office, I have this problem. I said, it might not be what's in your office. It may be what you're exposed to on your way to the office, and you only react to
Mhm.
it. So finding out what somebody's reacting to is really, you have to be a sleuth.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great point because a lot of people think, oh, if I have a reaction, if I'm having a reaction, it's to something that I'm dealing with right this minute. But you're saying it could be something that you were exposed to 3 hours ago.
Right.
Got you. Okay. Um, and so what are some of the common symptoms that people have first with the immediate response versus the delayed response?
Okay, so itchy, watery, sneezy. Uh,
Okay.
those those would be immediate responses. Now, a delayed type response would be something like poison ivy. You're
Mm,
exposed to it, and then you have a delayed response to it. And that's
okay.
something that really can take place over several days.
Right. Okay. And then what about those really severe reactions where you might hear of somebody having problems breathing or passing out? Where does that fit into what you're describing?
Okay, so I often tell people that when allergies are mild, they are in the nose, but as they worsen, they may move down further into the chest, and then you have asthma. But not everyone really is predisposed to getting asthma. There are people who have lots and lots of allergies, but will never have asthma. And we're not entirely sure why some people develop asthma and others don't. We've tried to relate it to different genotypes and everything, but it's not entirely clear.
Okay. So then that's sort of the difference between allergic asthma and other types of allergies, in other words.
Right.
Okay. So somebody who has allergic asthma, what kind of symptoms might they have?
Okay, so these are people who have inflammation in the airways, and there's
Mhm.
actually swelling in the airways, and when the airways swell, they actually get smaller.
Mhm.
And when there's also inflammation in the airway, there's mucus in the airway. And so that I often say that really fatal asthma, people drown in their own secretions.
Mm.
So that the entire airway being filled up with mucus. But it's all inflammation in the airways. And some of that is immediate and some of that is late.
Okay. Got it. So we have this immediate reaction, which is can be airway stuff. We have skin stuff that can be delayed. And then we have sort of the worst when it gets down in your lungs and your lungs fill with mucus and you start wheezing,
Right.
right? Um, so so we're at the beginning of allergy season, right? As we've said already. Are there sort of preventive measures that people can take to lessen their their response? Maybe we could talk about the non-medication versus medication. Let's start non-medication first.
The one that I probably like less is best would be the use of saline.
Hmm.
That actually flushing the nose out with saline is very effective. And I tell people that the best time to flush the nose out with something like sinus rinse would be after you've been outside and you come in, you want to flush it out of your nose and stop the body from making an immune response to it.
Got it. I often wonder, this is just my personal thing, if I'm outside without a hat and the pollen gets in my hair and then I put my head down on my pillow to go to sleep, am I sort of, getting it in my eyes, and if I don't wash my hair, if I've been outside for a long time?
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the worst experiences somebody had was taking a sweatshirt and wiping off the windshield, and then putting the sweatshirt in the back seat of the car.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
They should have thrown that sweatshirt away, okay? But as they were
Right.
driving along, they became more and more sick.
Right. Right. So just basically assume that every time you go outside, it's going to be on your skin, on your clothes, and your hair, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
so, unfortunately, the best thing would be simply to remain inside in air conditioning and not open the windows. Of course, that means not having a life,
Right.
and we don't want to.
Right. But do you find that showering, washing your hair, changing your clothes when you come in, those kinds of things help?
Absolutely. But also having a fairly allergen-free environment so that if we think about our upholstery, if it's nice and fuzzy, it harbors a lot of dust. If
Mm,
we have rugs on our floor, dust catchers, so
mhm.
that come to the allergy office, you notice that first of all, the floor is something that can be mopped. All of the upholstery is vinyl, something can be wiped off, and we won't
Mm.
have lines.
You won't have,
So
what was the last thing you said? You won't have what?
blinds.
Oh, blinds. Mm-hmm.
Window, yeah,
Right. What about curtains? That seems like that would catch dust too.
they do. They do.
Okay. All right.
So, I mean, the best would be to have flat shades that you can pull down.
Right. So people that have allergies, you're recommending that they do a home overhaul to create a allergen-free environment?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other non-medication tips before we move into the medication piece?
Well, there are things, there are mattress covers and pillow covers that help protect from the dust mites that get into the bed with us and everything. Uh,
Okay.
so dust mites really are little creatures that really eat skin. So when you go to bed, they say dinner. And
Mm-hmm.
if you have eczema and you go to bed, they say a banquet.
Ooh,
So,
oh dear.
but one way to protect that is to actually cover the mattress with an impermeable zipper cover, and also to wash linen with really hot water frequently.
Mm. When you say frequently, that means different things to different people.
Well, at least once a week.
Once a week. Okay, great. Great. Yeah, we're trying to give some practical tips here. What about air purifiers? Do those help at all?
They can, yes. And
Okay.
actually, purchased one this year because I'm afraid of the wildfires. You know, we had such poor air quality last year when we had the wildfires from Canada and from Virginia.
Right, right. I remember that, and thank you for reminding me. I'd kind of put that out of my mind. And so let's talk a little bit then about medication to prevent allergic reactions. Maybe I can maybe we could start off talking there. What are some medications that I mean, they're common over the counter ones. So maybe you could discuss that approach versus what you might have to prescribe for more severe cases.
Well, the first, of course, will be antihistamines. So that things like Zyrtec or cetirizine or loratadine or Claritin, these are antihistamines and they sort of interfere with the release of mediators from our allergic cells. So when we have an allergic reaction, we have different mediators going into our body and causing inflammation. So
So different
antihistamine,
substances that our cells release.
right.
Hmm. Okay.
Uh, so that that will be one of the first ones, and they have really become all over, pretty much over the counter now. I think
Hmm.
really the insurance companies like to pay for less and less, and so that they want us to pay for more and more, so that they're pretty much over the counter. But they're also a lot cheaper now.
Right. Well, also one trick though is if you get your doctor to write a prescription for it, then it's more likely to be covered by insurance. Or if you buy something over the counter, you can, if you have a health savings account or a flexible spending account, you can use that to pay for it too. Yeah. Um, so um, so those are the things over the counter. What about Benadryl? People use Benadryl a lot. We were talking about also, things that people use to help their kids fall asleep. What can you can you comment on the use of Benadryl?
Well, yes, I use a lot of Benadryl, and actually, there are times when people get a sore throat, basically because of the allergies, and if
Hmm.
they take a little of that liquid Benadryl and let it sit at the back of their throat and then swallow it, it really sort of acts like a topical anesthetic. And it really is very soothing to the throat. Of course,
Okay.
adult patients that I can't write them a prescription for it, but they can buy it over the counter and use it.
Hmm. Great. But also keeping in mind though that it can cause you to get sleepy and be less
Absolutely.
effective during the day, right?
So,
And then sorry, go ahead.
so you would really want to use antihistamines more at night if they make you sleepy.
Hmm. And then what about for sort of people that have severe allergic reactions? What other options are available to them?
Okay, now we're talking about topical steroids and topical, and there are sprays that have one or both in them, and you want to spray that in your nose. And of course, you want to spray upwards and outwards whenever you use a nasal spray.
So we're talking about things like fluticasone or Flonase, for example.
Right.
Okay. All right. Great. So, you know, you mentioned. So actually, let me back up. So, we've sort of talked through all these different options. How do you work with a patient when they come in to help develop sort of a personalized treatment plan for somebody with asthma and allergies, considering they might have unique triggers and unique sensitivities?
Well, the first thing we'll want to do is find out what things they might have problems with. Ask them what foods they have reactions against, what seasons of the year they have reactions, because right now, if you're an allergist, you think about the different parts of the year based on what pollens are prevalent. Right now, we're in tree season, and most of the people that have problems are reacting to tree pollen. Toward the end of the spring, beginning of summer, it becomes the grass season. Late summer, early fall is your weed season. So ragweed and things like that.
Not the other kind of weed. Okay.
Oh, no. So then we have the beginning of the fall when the leaves start falling and there's lots of mold in the air because mold is nature. And then, of course, if you're dealing with children at the beginning of the year, they're back in school, they're passing around all little viruses. And that's when the emergency room is full of kids with asthma.
Got it. No, that makes sense.
So that's the year of seasons for an allergist.
So how do you as the physician determine what they're allergic to? What's the procedure?
Okay, so we can do skin tests where we put little drops and prick through them and look to see if they have a wheal and flare where that happens. But we can also do blood tests and measure how much IgE there is against different allergens. And so they're panels really for each area of the country, and we're in the number 2 zone. So we would order the number 2 zone panel, and we'll look at trees, grasses, weeds, and everything in this area.
Got it. So this is a national show. So when you say zone 2 for everybody, you're talking about the mid-Atlantic.
Right.
Right. Okay. But each area of the country is going to have different levels of allergens floating around that people are exposed to.
Right.
Got it. Now, does nutrition ever play a role in people managing allergy symptoms? Or do you ever make specific dietary recommendations?
We might make dietary recommendations if somebody has an allergy to different foods. So now there's a relationship between pollens and food allergy. For instance, if you're allergic to birch pollen, frequently you have problem with apples, pears, plums, everything in this family. And so that actually, if one gets desensitized to the birch pollen, often one is able to eat these foods. But the other thing about foods is that they're less allergenic if they're cooked. So there are a lot of people who eat raw apples, but could eat apple pie, which is cooked. And cooking denatures the proteins and makes it less.
Got it. And you mentioned desensitized. Can you tell me a little bit, what do you mean by desensitized?
Okay, so allergists have been desensitizing or giving allergy shots for more than 100 years. And basically you take a solution that has a a solution of, say, the proteins from different pollens. So tree pollens, grass pollens, weed pollens, and that's in an extract. And so you start with a tiny, tiny dose, and you gradually work your way up. And during this process, the person becomes more tolerant of those proteins. And the more tolerant they are, the less symptomatic they are.
That's great. How long does that process take typically?
Well, this is fairly time consuming. So it takes really about 4 months to get from 0 to the top dose, because you don't want the person to have an anaphylactic reaction. I can do
What
it.
does anaphylactic mean?
Anaphylactic means you got this allergy shot and suddenly your throat closes up and your chest is tight and you have this feeling of doom.
Right. Okay. That. Okay. So you don't want people to have that really super severe allergic reaction. Okay.
You'd like to sort of increase this dose very gradually so that you're not getting huge reactions where you give the injections. You don't want the person's arm to swell up and they're like, oh no, I'm never going back. Okay, so you want the reactions to be manageable and not so bad that the person won't tolerate them. So you're working your way up gingerly. You make haste slowly.
Got it. But I actually read the comments on how they when you put a doctor's name in online and comments from their patients come up, everybody talked about how wonderful the desensitization that you've taken them through and how it's been life-changing for them in terms of dealing with their allergies. So just definitely want to make sure that we talked about that. And I can't believe that it's already time for audience questions. Because I had more questions of my own, but I really want to make sure that the audience gets a chance to engage with Dr. Reece. So, Lila and Wayne, what y'all got?
I'll go first because
go ahead.
You just talked about apples, and there's a question on the West Coast about someone read recently that apples are a natural antihistamine, but
I don't think so.
No. So that you're debunking that, Dr. Reece.
That's some health misinformation.
Specifically Granny Smith apples. Okay.
It's the first time I've heard that.
Okay. You have some questions, Mike? I have another one.
Yes. Here we have. Have you heard this comes from Kathy Sindos. She asked, have you heard patients say that when allergy season is very bad, they get tired also?
Yes. Actually, it's the very first question on my questionnaire. Do you feel tired when you get up in the morning? Do you feel like you got up and went? And this is typical of allergies. Yes.
Great question.
Also, after a severe allergic reaction, people feel really tired. So whenever I've had an anaphylactic reaction in my office, when the person falls asleep, I know it's over. But people feel really tired after a big allergic reaction. Yeah.
Okay.
And it makes sense. I mean, your body is expending a tremendous amount of energy. You can't see it happening, but inside, your body is all revved up and working real hard.
Also, we have a question from Yvonne Smith. What about travel when you have allergies? Can you speak to that, doctor?
Well, it sort of depends on where you're traveling to. For instance, many people from Central America or from the Caribbean said they have no trouble when they're there, but they have trouble when they come here. And that's because we're in a hardwood forest. We have lots of tree pollens. If you're living in a place where it's mostly palm trees, that's really not such an issue. So that traveling on the ocean, it tends to be fairly non-allergenic. So that time at the seaside, yes.
I didn't hear that last part, Dr. Reece.
Seaside, ocean.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, it's less allergenic.
Right.
Okay.
Lie.
To that, this is just a personal story, Yvonne. I travel quite a bit for work, and I was having a reaction very regularly that wasn't happening on land, right? Like when I would get in the air, I would be sneezing, watery eyes, and I realized that I'd be taking advantage of all of my perks on the plane by having like a bourbon ginger ale, and there's something in the bourbon
Oh
that
wow.
I was reacting to. So I've had to give up my bourbon gingers while I'm flying. Personal story.
Oh well.
Oh well. Here's another question from the West Coast. Is it okay to take an allergy medication, an over-the-counter allergy medication daily? I know folks who suffer beyond just the spring months. So how much is too much?
Well, the FDA originally said the dose is the dose. And we said, the people who are really sick don't get into the antihistamine drug studies. We are dealing with people who are really sick. So that the maximum dose that is recommended is that you can take it up to 4 antihistamines a day.
Oh, okay.
And regularly people take 2.
Okay.
And really, people say, oh, I think the antihistamine stopped working. Well, what happens is that sometimes the pollens in the air are so high that the antihistamine simply can't cope with it. So that, that's a seasonal thing.
Okay.
Well, and that's why I wanted to make sure that we covered some of the non-medication things, because you want to do those things and max those out, because that'll help the medicine work better, right? And I think if you're taking 4 antihistamines a day, every day, all the time, you really need to be under a doctor's supervision. Let's just say that. Yeah.
That's where I was trying to go with that. Thank you, Dr. MEL. I feel like if you're taking them every single day, might need to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Care. Okay.
So we have a question from Francis Njunguna. I end up sneezing anytime I step into my workplace restroom. I don't sneeze. I guess I don't sneeze because I'm quite sure it goes to the restroom other places, but I don't sneeze anywhere else. Should I be worried about this?
Well, I wouldn't want to go into that restroom, of course. One of the things you always have to worry about in restrooms are air purifiers.
Yeah.
Well, all of these scents that they put in. And really, in our office, we don't allow anybody to spray with, perfumes. In fact, we try to have it a pretty much perfume-free office so that we don't want to be exposed to all of these volatile organic compounds.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Yvonne
Well, maybe she should. Yeah, I was going to say, maybe she should ask her building facilities person, what they're using as cleaning fluids and scent, air scent stuff in the bathroom, and see if they could cut it out.
Yeah. One of the worst places for that is a casino in certain,
Oh,
wherever
yeah.
you go to a casino. So there's smoke in there. There are all the fragrances. It is a nightmare for people who have allergies, and I have had to stay away. Rhoda Lawrence is asking, Dr. Reece, are you seeing new and different allergies as a result of the changing weather patterns?
Not so much different as more severe, because our allergy season, our pollen season each year with global warming is longer and heavier, so that more people are suffering with allergies than ever before. But not.
Yeah.
So they're the same, they're just worse. They're just worse.
Right.
Okay.
Wow.
Can we, doctors, both of you, readdress natural ways to prevent some of these allergies with nutrition?
Well, actually, I would like to suggest not nutrition, but exposure to animals.
Okay.
The people in this country who have the fewest allergies are the Amish, and exposed to cows and all of the other animals on a regular basis. So that exposure to animals is actually beneficial early on in life. Having a dog is a good thing. So that being exposed to other children and getting infections early is also beneficial. And I always say every child should get a chance to play in the dirt and eat a little dirt.
Yeah, is that because it sort of builds your microbiome? We've had an episode on that.
Right, but it also you're making immune responses that are Th1, which are the good immune responses, and dealing with allergies is the T helper 2 response that you really don't want to have. So that you really want to have a lot of immune responses, and you don't want to live in a completely sterile environment because you want to give your immune system something to do to make good antibodies.
Oh, wow.
So all these sort of antibiotic soaps and us, wiping down our counters with cleaning products all the time, that's not necessarily good for kids. For kids, it's better to expose them to stuff.
Right. I often
within reason.
I often say the cave mom had it good because she didn't have a food processor. You know what she did? She chewed up the food and she put it into the baby's mouth. That was her food processor. So baby got a good microbiome if mom was healthy. And so that, it may sound awful, but actually they recommend that you not wipe off the pacifier if you drop it, but the mother should lick it and put it back in the kid's mouth.
Wow.
But what happens to the mother? Y'all setting the mother up for disaster.
She's on her own. She's on her own.
I'm just saying. I didn't say it, but somebody out there thought it.
But we should be 100% sterile.
Right. No, that's great. Thank you for bringing that up. And in that same vein, I want to ask you, some kids have childhood asthma, but then they outgrow it. What leads to that? Is it something that they're doing, or is that just sort of the natural evolution?
In part, it's the natural evolution. But if people really have severe asthma as children, allergy shots really have a very strong likelihood of helping them to outgrow it. It sort of increases by a factor of 4 times by getting the shots. So normally without anything, there's almost a 20% chance of outgrowing it. But with the allergy shots, it's more like an 80% chance.
Wow.
That's important to know for everybody who has a child with asthma. Take them to see an allergist. Very important.
Yeah.
There you go. So we have, speaking of children, it's always somebody in the chat with a child question. And this one comes about, this is Michelle Jackson. What about these young people who develop open sores on their lips around the same time every year?
That's more of a contact sensitivity, I think. Not something that I see on a regular basis.
I would have somebody take a look at that. I mean, that could be a variety of different things. So probably somebody needs a physician needs to take a look at that and let you know what that could be.
Yeah. Don't stick that pacifier back in.
Do not.
Do not. Open sore. No. Well, go ahead, Lai.
No, there's one more question from Ro. You see it in the chat.
Go ahead.
Can some allergy medications lead to an accidental overdose and cause serious side effects such as seizures, hallucinations, or death?
It sounds like a leading question, like she looked it up first.
Many. I think really Montelukast, which is a leukotriene inhibitor, has been linked more to some people having really different psychiatric manifestations.
Okay.
In my 1,000 years of practicing allergy, I've had 2 adults become acutely depressed on Zyrtec.
Oh.
I prescribed it to thousands and thousands of people and never had a problem. But here we have 2 idiosyncratic people who did not have a tendency to have depression, but when taking it became depressed. And as soon as they stopped taking it, it went away.
Wow.
Wow.
That's amazing that you figured out that that's what it was. But yeah, that's great. Good to know.
Wow. Well, we have just a statement from Roz Glass Mason. I took allergy shots as an adult because of exposures to a cat and also workplace ventilation system. After 4 years of my shots, my asthma has improved.
Yes.
Yeah.
So children have a really strong chance of going into remission, but for adults, allergy shots do improve asthma. I generally will tell my adults that they're not likely to go into remission, but they will definitely make it an improvement.
Great. That's fantastic. And are those is that desensitization process that you described, is that covered by insurance?
Generally, yes.
Fantastic. Good to know. All right. Well, I think it's that time already. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Reece. This was super enlightening. I think folks got some practical tips to take away to deal with their asthma, their allergies. So glad that you could join us. Lila and Wayne, of course, thank you all for co-hosting and producing and doing your thing. And I also want to thank my other producer, Rhoda Lawrence, who's not on screen, but she does an incredible job of making sure that we get our guests lined up every week. So thank you, Rhoda. And thank you to my Be Health Empowered family for tuning in and always bringing us those fantastic questions. Love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. And until I see you again, remember, be wise, be well, and be healthy. Thanks for joining.